Hey, Closet Busters, come on and gather around. It's time once again to kick down those closet doors of life. We're here to escape our BS, explore our fears, and elevate our self-expression. I'm your host, Rick Clemens, bold move expert and coming out coach, and I'm going to take you to the party, the pulpit, the wake, and back to the party of living your life uncloseted. So come on, grab hold of yourself and get ready to step out, step up, and step into living your truth as we explore more stories, tips, and tricks for living your life uncloseted. Now let's get to the show. Hey, closet dwellers and closet busters. We are here with another episode of Life Uncloseted. In fact, we're probably just a couple episodes in at this point. And I have to tell you, as I've been scouring the planet looking for really cool people to interview, you just never know where they're going to come from. And what I can tell you about today's guest is he's really created a knack for showing up authentically, finding ways to create something out of nothing. He believes that the impossible can truly be made possible no matter what the situation is. He's done some pretty cool shit in his life at this point. And he comes from a perspective that he knows, much like, any coming out journey, whether it's a coming out journey of building a business and leaving a corporate America job or coming out of a bad relationship, that chaos truly is what creates stability. Now, I met Greg, just a couple of months ago when I was at Podcast Movement. And he was part of a one-day seminar I was in. And as soon as he took the stage, it was like I immediately woke up. And then as he began to talk, I realized this guy is the real deal. He's solid. He comes from a place of service. He comes from a place of honesty and trust and transparency. And I thought, I got to have this guy. I got to have this guy on Life Uncloseted. And here he is today. I want to just introduce you to a really cool guy. His name is Greg Centineo. And I probably butchered the last name there, but welcome to the podcast, bro.
Hey, Rick. Thanks so much. No, you actually you did a great job in the last name, Centineo. So you're one of the few that hasn't butchered.
Yeah, I guess it's a couple of years of Italian background that I did while I was in high school and college. So maybe that's part of it. Anyway, man, so I want to just kind of fill everybody in. You wrote it out through Hurricane Irma. So glad to hear that, man. But glad you're here today because we had a great conversation when we did the pre-interview on this. And let's just kind of dive in. You've done a lot of coming out of a lot of different kinds of closets in your life and your work. So why don't you kind of talk to us a little bit about the entertainment stuff or the business stuff you do? Because you really inspire people to go make stuff out of nothing. I'm going to let you kind of just pick up wherever you want to start this dialogue, whether it's in the entertainment industry or the business world. Why don't you dive in here, man?
Yeah, man. Thanks. I look at kind of entertainment and business. It's all the same. And
yep.
And it kind of, for me, it's been a kind of a really cool journey for myself, just holding on to one consistency in my life has been, do what you want to do in this world. And so it's kind of led me, Rick, through, a real cool meandering path over the past 25, 30 years of my life into so many different types of industries, entertainment being one of them. But with the notion, I think, and always the core belief that, you can do anything in this world. If it's thought about and spoken about, then it can actually be, willed into existence. And so I've had really the privilege and almost the self-determined privilege to go ahead and do what I want to do and make ideas, happen in reality. And so it's been a great ride, entertainment wise, and in the other multiple industries that I found myself in over the past years.
Yeah, well, and what I love about what you just brought up, Greg, is it's kind of the pinnacle of living your life uncloseted. It's like you've got to believe you can do anything you want to do in your life. If you don't believe in yourself first, and you don't believe that life is this beautiful, beautiful buffet table of you can eat from life anything you want to eat from it and create from life anything you want to create, then you're probably going to keep yourself pretty much buttoned up in your own personal closet of, life isn't meant to be lived the way I'm really wanting to live it. And then you kind of just crumple and die, and you just kind of get through life getting by instead of living it to its fullest. I know you crumpled a little bit in a couple of your endeavors, in the entertainment industry, but what did you learn from some of those things where you're like, okay, I took this to the fruition, it came to this space, I got out of my own closet, and then suddenly it didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen?
Those can be really devastating moments in your life.
Yeah.
especially when you feel like, you've done everything you possibly could do to make it succeed, and it should have succeeded. And when it doesn't, it becomes almost like being T-boned, and completely unprepared for it, which I think the animation film Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, was that project for me. That was the killer, man. And that was the failure and I say present failure because I think we'll bring that back.
Yeah.
But that failure was the most difficult, Rick. It was something that I don't think I can ever really describe or have predicted to have. The aftermath, I would have been able to predict what have happened to me internally. I think my attorney, I don't think I'm sure he said this. I don't think he was kidding when he said it, but he made a statement to me a few months ago. He said, "Hey, it's good to have you back after 3 years." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I think you had post-traumatic stress." And I think the wounds, some of these failures, at least that failure for me was so devastating. I think it happens, Rick, when you really are passionate about something and you really throw yourself into something and your intentions are right, But that was a strange situation, man, as that, that was almost a 9-year project from start to finish. And I think if it would have failed at any other time, I would have been absolutely fine because we never really had any chance of succeeding in that project. But the fact that we kind of dragged that thing up the mountain right to the top and got it, the 4,000 screens, 41 territories overseas, $120 million, $32 million in prints and advertising. I mean, A-list cast, music,
right?
Come on, I can go on and on and on about all the achievements of that project that the teams succeeded at. And then you should have succeeded at some level, right? There should have been some success. And man, when that failed, bro, that just
like a knife to the heart. I mean, everything that you'd seen and believed, and as you said, all that stuff that was there, it suddenly, wait, this isn't coming out the way we thought. And I think for a lot of us, when we think about doing something really big, making a bold move, doing that bold thing in our lives, we see it so clearly. We see, we may not know exactly how it's going to come together, but the heartbeat of it is what we see. It's the vision. We know we're going for it. And then when suddenly it doesn't start to play out the way we thought, it's like we don't know what to do with it. Because now this thing we've created or this move we've made, we're sitting here going, oh my God, what did I do? Why did this not happen the way I expected? And then we don't know what the next step really is. So take us kind of through, as that started to unravel. Your attorney said it's good to have you back after 3 years. It sounds like you kind of went on a little lost journey there for a while, trying to figure out what the fuck is next, right?
Yeah, it's funny. After that, immediately after that, we launched Pulse, the Michael Jackson hologram. So when I say I kind of disappeared, I didn't. I still actually was involved in doing projects, but I was probably a quarter of the human being that I was prior to that release. I almost had I learned the principle of inertia. So going back to that moment, right? I'll get into the details of it, but I think I literally functioned and existed on inertia. I was moving with so much momentum for those 9 years that even though it failed, I still had inertia. I was still moving in forward motion, and it kind of carried me through. Yeah. And it's funny, I actually had even greater achievements in that project than I did in the other one, working at a 20% of my abilities. But I think, when you get hit with something like that, and it's such a surprise when it fails, there's a plethora of emotions and feelings and guilt. And I never thought guilt would have been associated with, even though no one did anything wrong, is just how, and the embarrassment of a failure like that. And then more importantly, what you thought and felt about its success, and it was, and expectations were managed correctly for years. So it wasn't like it was nothing was overpromised and underdelivered. It was underpromised and overdelivered, but still it was such a devastating effect for me. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. That's not my behavior. If you know me, I'm usually out of bed 7:15. I'm in the gym 8:15 till about 9:30, 10. And then right at it, my teams, know I jump in about 11 o'clock, quarter to 11. I was in bed till 11:30, couldn't get out.
Wow.
And it was really difficult. I couldn't even think about money. I couldn't think about business. I couldn't think about responsibilities. It was just almost like an internal implosion for me. And you wouldn't have known that necessarily by standing around me and talking to me.
And what's interesting about what you're describing here, Greg, is so many people who've gone through we're just going to go to the sexual orientation coming out process. This is typical. These kind of feelings, emotions, and everything you're describing is exactly where they get. It's like, I don't even want to get out of bed. I don't want to face this. I don't want to believe that this is what I have become, what I've created. And then from the outside looking in, a lot of times we try to hide what's really going on. And as you said, a lot of people probably wouldn't have known unless you know Greg. I mean, bottom line, unless you really know Greg, you wouldn't know any of this was really happening. So then what was the turning point? What was the thing where you finally realized, okay, I got to come out of these four walls that are holding me in this space that are actually probably in some way killing you, so to speak?
Yeah, it's something, I would say that every day, by the way, Rick. I would say, all right, I knew there was something wrong. I said, all right, Greg, you got to get up. And I'm a very strong personality, and internally, and I get a very strong mind. So, if you look at my history, right? I mean, I'm tenacious and my mind is strong. But Rick, I would say that every day when I get out of bed, I knew something was fucking wrong. And I go, you got to change this, man. And I tried and I couldn't. And so for the first time in my life, I had no control of something. And I equated it to, Rick, and I want to focus on it a little bit because it was, I don't want to gloss right over it. It was almost as if I was a world-class runner, and then I broke my ankles, and I just kept getting up and trying to run, even though I had broken ankles. And I get up and I might stand, but I couldn't run. And so my mind was saying run, my arms would say run, my heart would say run, but I didn't have the faculties in my feet and my legs to do it. And so that was a very strange experience for somebody who's type A, who looks at obstacles and say, well, we're going to climb it, go around it, go through the damn thing. That was a really difficult place for me to be at. And where I was wounded, injured really severely, internally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, was a complete mess. And so I can relate now. I have a different perspective on that when somebody says, hey, I can't get up, and I know what that means. I tried and I could not function. And so I didn't know if I ever would get up, man. And, one of the greatest wisdoms, proverbs I've ever heard in my life, whether it was from Confucius or Socrates or Solomon, but it was a great line that I never forgot. It was, just defines righteous and wicked in a way that you would never define it, right? Like, don't drink, don't smoke, don't dance, don't have sex before marriage, all that shit. No, this was real simple. This was completely off that target. It said the righteous person, right, and the wicked are judged on one thing, really one thing alone. It said the righteous will fail 7 times and the wicked will fail once. And the difference between the two was one would get up and one would choose not to get up. And so the single failure meant you never got up and tried again. And so the embracing of failure as a big part of life, and then fear of failure, of not getting up to try again, would be absolutely depicted as evil. Yeah. So go ahead and go smoke, go drink, go do whatever you want, because that's a proverb, man. It's not about that. It's about, will you get back up, dust yourself off, and try again? Now, the righteous, it said, failed 7 times. Kept failing and getting back up and dusting off. And so, I would say that. I would live by that motto until I got fucking shot in the legs, bro. And I tried to I couldn't get up, man. I didn't want to get up after a while. I didn't want to come out of my bedroom. I don't want to come out of my loft. Yeah. I just wanted to make nothing exist anymore. And that's pain, man, right? So it doesn't matter what deep pain. So, for the audience, our audience out there, it doesn't matter what causes the pain. It's real pain, right? And you feel like you just can't get out of bed. And even you feel like I didn't even, believe it or not, I wasn't suicidal in this, but I did question, what the fuck do I even want to be here for? I mean, do I really want to go on? Do I really want to get back into the game again and do that? I don't want to even get involved in this anymore in life. It was really that deep. So I don't want to minimize it for myself because it took me almost 3 years to recover. And by the way, during that process of recovering, I didn't know I was recovering. I just thought I was fucked up. Yeah. And I might never, ever recover. And that's living with that psychological thought was scary for me, Rick.
Well, I think what you're bringing up here, Greg, though, is that awareness of, I know this may be forever, but yet I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And I believe, having gone through this myself, that these are the moments that without going to that depth, you'll never see the light. You can't get past this, because if you just go, well, then push through it, which is the nature. You and I are a lot like, it's like, go, just get through this, and then when you realize you can't, you're not, there's a lesson being given to us in that moment of, okay, it's time to quit pushing through. You need to be here. You need to be experiencing this. You need to feel what's happening here, because this is the thing that's going to take you to the next space. But until we can get through that lesson's going to keep coming back to us. And for every one of us, it's going to be different. I mean, for you, it was 3 years. For me, it was a good, probably, 13 years of marriage that I was like, okay, I've got to get through this lesson of figuring out how to come out and how to be who I'm meant to be. And that translated into, now I get to do a lot of really cool stuff that I didn't think I'd ever be doing, nor was it even on the freaking radar. None of this was on the radar. Yeah. My radar was having a steady job, having a nice home, maybe 2 homes, driving nice cars, having a great wife, great kids. That was it. Until I realized the lesson was going to come, and that lesson was going to be hard. It was going to be painful. It was going to be my truth showing up. And then you step through and it's like, wow, thank you, God, universe, whatever your belief system is, for showing me the way, that this is what it is. This is about stepping out and stepping into that beautiful place of ripping the closet doors open and saying, this is how I'm going to be here. So once you started coming through the shadows of the darkness, so to speak, and I'm going to give everybody a little insight, Greg's also a pastor. He's been through this. So there's a lot of other stuff behind him that, you hear that and go, well, then why couldn't he just get through this? Put all the faith and everything in place. Well, just because that's what you've done doesn't mean it's any easier, man. So as you started to come through it, what was the thing that really started to pull you out of the dark?
Yeah, it's confidence. It was beginning to become more self-aware of myself, go deeper into myself, start to believe in myself again, because what I realized was it was confidence that I lost. And so over a period of, months, I think in the final year of healing, certain things were happening and certain people were coming to me and kind of affirming me, not realizing it. And I started to believe in myself again. And there was one particular moment. And so I won't say to you that there was one thing that happened, but there was one thing that happened in a particular moment. But I think I had already internally have been healing, scab ripped off, scabbed again. And I was at a point now where I had an individual call me and he kind of was rude and, condescending about something. And he was wrong. But that happened to me over the course of 3 years. It would send me into a downward, tailspin.
Right.
And it started to again when he did it, and that doesn't usually happen to me post this failure. Right. But it would. So as I hung the phone up, I started to do my downward spiral, and all of a sudden I stopped. And I remember going, wait a minute, freak him, man. Are you kidding me? Exactly. I got him back on the phone. I said, let me tell you, I did what I typically would. I blasted him. And when I hung up the phone with him, he completely changed his tone. But the difference was when I hung up that phone, I felt something. I felt I was back. Like it wasn't fabricated, Rick. I was back. And it was, I had fabricated that over the period of 3 years, thinking I was back at times, but I wasn't. But this time I was back. And that was the turning point for me. And then I realized, wow, I think this is real now. I don't think I'm going to regress. And I didn't. And I remember saying to Jules, you met Jules at the event. Jules and I have been together for about 5 years, but we've worked together for almost a decade. I used to say to her during the process of going through this that I said, if this doesn't kill me, I'm not sure it's not, but if it doesn't, the great philosopher Descartes, when he said, if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger.
Absolutely.
Well, I got to tell you, man, I now, through experience, have lived that, and it didn't kill me. And I am stronger than I was then. And for some of you out there that know me, some of you are shaking your head going, oh, shit, that's all we need now. Be stronger than he was.
Right.
But that's what happened. You know what I mean? And that's what happened this time to me. I came, and that was the turning point for me. And it's been tremendous from that point forward. And And I knew it, Rick. I knew it would help people. I said it to her. I said, if I get through this, this is going to help a lot of people because I'm a good communicator, right? And I'm really good at articulating, and connecting dots in life. And this is a disease with difficult. It's like I went to hell. I wasn't sure if I was coming back. And I got back, and I have a little bit of a message, that I can share with people that it's.
Well, I'd say it's more than just a little bit of a message. I mean, one of the things that I just heard you say that was so powerful is this confidence piece. And actually what I also heard in there is not only was it confidence in yourself, but probably confidence in humanity and planet and everything else. There's that piece that we can be confident in ourselves, but then we got to go, okay, I'm confident that the world can take this in. And I'm confident that I can stand in the face of humanity when it says, you can't be that, you can't do that. That's what it really means to start to take that confidence piece and own it and move forward with it and step into the power of who you're really, truly meant to be. So as you did that, what I also picked up, Greg, there was just a determination that came back into your body, mind, and soul that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it probably looks slightly different than what you'd been doing in the past because the experience took you to a place that helped you see yourself in a whole new light. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely, man. It puts you on a different trajectory. Mm-hmm. And that's what it did. There was a metamorphosis going on in that 3-year period. Part of you dies.
Yeah.
And I've been reinvented before, in my life. But at 1999, I had a similar experience. I kid around. I always say I got fired by the church in 1999. I always say, if you think you got problems, I actually got fired twice by God. But during that 99 process, it was a reinvention of my life, but part of me had to die. And the same thing here. And I think this is really interesting. We all talk about transformation. We all want to change and evolve as people, but I realize there's a price to be paid for that. Part of you has to die for some of you to live. And I think what happened, Rick, this was the greatest death of my life without dying. And a lot of me did die in these 3 years. But then there was a reinvention. There was a new birth, a renaissance inside me that made me very different. It made me actually a little softer as a person, more compassionate. And I think I was soft and compassionate as a person prior, but this is even more now. And so there was this metamorphosis of me. There was this reinvention of me, and what I left behind died. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to function again in life. That was my fear. I wasn't afraid going through it. I wish somebody could have said to me, you're going to be okay. It might be 3 years, it could be 5 years, but you're going to be okay. I just didn't know if I was going to be okay. I didn't have a problem going through it. I just felt like I would never get out of it. And that was the scary part. So for those out there that are struggling, going through something like this similar, I can tell you, I can't guarantee it, but you're probably going to get through it, and there's going to be all types of emotional mosaics, if you would, that are going to take place in your life and that you're going to go through. And that's all part of a dying process of something in you that's got to go.
Right. You brought something really interesting up, Greg, that I want to make sure the listeners get this. And those that have been longtime listeners from when this was the Coming Out Lounge, they may have already picked it up. But what you just described is that death of who you were in that rebirth. And what's so interesting is when someone's coming out of the closet in their sexual orientation, they go through this same thing because there's this death of who they thought they were and allowing the birthing of who they really are to come forward. And it doesn't matter if you're doing this from a sexual orientation piece or you're doing this from here you are, you produce this, Hollywood film and everything, and you step forward and you thought this is what you're supposed to be, and then suddenly it crashed and burned. What I heard you just say was there's that piece of yourself that had to come forward, that piece that, had to be reinvented and rebirthed, but it was probably always sitting there, this softer Greg, this more emotional, available guy that's always been there. He's always been hiding in there in that internal closet of who you are in your body and your soul. Mm. But now that awakening happened, and now here he is totally full and present in a way that you didn't even know you could be. And then probably by a lot of people who know you, it's like, wow, who is this guy? Yet he's always been there. Just like somebody who's gay, it's always been there. Somebody who's been an entrepreneur who knows they should have been an entrepreneur and doing their own thing. It's always been there. It's just there's some catalyst that comes along and boom, you're faced with the why in the road going, okay, are you going to actually go or are you not going to go? And some people never will go. and that's just their path. But those of us who've been there, and it sounds like this is exactly what happened to you, is you realize, okay, I'm going to go. This is where I'm supposed to go. I'm going to show up this way. And man, it's like letting go of the old self, and then the new self steps in, and then suddenly you're on a whole new path that's like, wow, I never fucking believed I would be this space, but now I'm here and I really love it.
It's funny you say that, Rick. Yeah, because you go to a new place that you've never been before, and then you're shocked when you get there and go, this is really awesome. It's a totally new perspective. It's a new mindset. Yeah, I think, and then, we talk about sexual orientation. I mean, that's sometimes because, especially in certain countries, Oz included,
Yep.
There's such a stigma, there's such a mores that's put upon it. So you feel like you're doing something wrong. You feel like, there's something wrong with you. And like I did too, I just felt there was something wrong with me, failed at that level. And maybe I'm not as great as everyone said I was. And maybe I'm the opposite of what, and so mind games that come in, guys. And I think you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but it's, learning to love yourself and learning to love who you are, exactly who you are.
Absolutely.
And it's the only thing you really own in this world. I've really come to grips with this. And philosophically, the only thing you really own in this entire world is you, is yourself. And that self, that you, exactly the way you are, sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. That's what has to come out. Mm-hmm. That's what has to live. And it doesn't matter. I know it's easier said, but it doesn't matter what others think, because you become the prisoner. Mm-hmm. You literally become the prisoner if you depend on what others think about you.
Absolutely. And it becomes such a chore. It becomes a work in and of itself to live for what others think. And I'm not saying there's not anything wrong with living for others. There's a fine line here on how you live for others. But when we sacrifice self to go live fully for others, it's no wonder then that bitterness and depression and everything starts to show up, because we're not letting ourselves be who we're meant to be in the world. And then suddenly we wonder, how did I get here? Well, a lot of times it's because every bit of standard is judged against what other people think instead of what we think, what we believe. We all have our own value system that we can stand in. And again, doesn't mean you can't do the fine line of walking with others. I think we can't do this without others. Number one, you and I both know this. Mm-hmm. But if we go fully in and our life is all about someone else, then we're just a shell of a person. That's all it is. We're a shell walking around living by other people's standards. And then we have the worst things happening in our lives because we can't be who we're meant to be. It's that simple. So as you step forward, Greg, here's something I also heard, and you and I kind of talked about this a little bit. I know for you, it was about realizing that in order to go have an impact in the world, you have to be able to change the world, but change the way you experience the world yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing for you, is you started to see that I really want to change the way I experience the world rather than just let the world change me.
Yeah. There's so much going on in the world that we live in, and there's so much negativity, but there's really not that much negativity. Mm-hmm. If you listen to the sources that are out there, all you hear is negative. I don't watch the news, Rick.
Yep.
Ever. If I happen to be surfing through channels and I have to go through 5, 12, 25, I can't push the channel control fast enough. I don't even want to hear the frequency of the news because it's down, period. And so, I walk away from negativity. Yeah. I walk away from these concepts that everything is bad, everything is negative, and it's a harsh world, and it's really not. I mean, on a regular basis, nothing happens bad around us. Mm-hmm. Think about that, right? Mm-hmm. So,
well, it's not bad until we label it as bad. That's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like, one of the metaphors I always use when I'm working with clients is, so let's think about this. You're born, and that first time that you're exposed to something out in a park that's kind of it's this shape with all these different things going different ways, and there's these other little things that are hanging off of it. If nobody tells you that that's a tree, you don't know what it is. But as soon as we put the label on it, then it becomes something. And the perception of whether something is good or bad is only when we put the label on it. I know people who can see things that are going on in our world right now, and they're like, yeah, it's not bad. It's just, it is what is. It's happening, and it's part of the metamorphosis of where we are as a planet and a society. And if you get hung up on the good and the bad, then boom, you're in the story. You're in the story that now this is bad. And I know a lot of the work that you do with, businesses and leadership and stuff like that, you probably come across this all the time. Oh, we're in a bad spot,
Yeah. And it's so true, man. It's all mindset. It's all how you view it. And that's why I kind of eliminate negativity, not reality. I eliminate BS negativity. So so it goes from I'm going to change the world to I'm going to change how I experience the world. That's a huge shift. Huge shift. And there's one of my favorite songs, and I didn't realize this. I was jogging a few weeks ago, and I had it on my headsets. It was Louis Armstrong's "It's a Wonderful World." And I'm listening to the lyrics to that, and I've heard it, 100 times, 200 times. But as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, either this guy is on drugs. Listen to his perspective of the world. And I stopped running dead in my tracks, and I thought, oh my gosh, it was his mindset. It's how Louis, and it's how you choose to experience this world. And I got to tell you, man, like I say, people, a lot of the elderly, when I speak to elderly people, and they're, oh my gosh, things are so. I said, what are you talking about? I said, what's happened horrifically to you or anything negatively to you in the last 5 months? Nothing. Then what are you talking about? Well, the news. What about the news? So it's a perspective. It's a mindset. It is. And, if I go into companies, it's all a mindset. I change mindsets. That's why it doesn't matter what industry I come in. Yep. I don't need to know your industry. I know the mindset. It's your people. Unless the company's being run by dogs, cats, and birds, and I'm going to have to figure that out. But as long as it's run by humans, I already know the problems. It's your mindset. And if you can change your mindset, you're not going to change the world, but you will change the way you experience this world. And that, I think, is the most important element right now.
Well, I agree. And I think that's a beautiful place to kind of bring us full circle, because you just put a beautiful value bomb out there of how you choose to experience the world is also how you choose to get yourself uncloseted in life. Everything's a choice. Everything is a choice. And it's hard for us as humans to grasp that concept because, okay, yes, I get the concept that it's a choice, but man, to have to choose to be happy, it's like a gut reaction to be miserable. Okay, well then you need to start choosing to be happy instead of choosing the gut reaction to be miserable. As people choose to do things, they choose to experience the world. But if they choose not to experience the world from a positive space versus a negative space, it's all in your own choice. It's in our hands. And as soon as we can grasp that, to me, that's when the magic starts to happen. It doesn't matter if you're in the business world, if you're creating animated films, if you're creating Michael Jackson's, hologram. When you choose to experience the world in a certain way, then you choose happiness, you choose joy, you choose the experience of life. So, Greg, as we wind up here, man, I appreciate you being here, but I know you've got beautiful value bombs you can always drop. So if somebody's really struggling to just truly step into that space of living their life freely and out of a space of feeling closeted, and they want to come through that door and go, yes, it's time for me to live my life uncloseted, what would you love to leave the listeners with as a last closing note here?
Just remind yourself that, what is it that's, obviously, what's the fear? And what I would say to you is don't look for the fear to mitigate, because most of the time the fear won't mitigate. Start to focus on becoming brave to face the fear, because that's really what matters. People look at me all the time and they think I'm not afraid. I say, of course I'm afraid.
Of course we are.
And they go, well, how do you do it? I go, I'm brave. So coming out is you're afraid. Okay. And that's not going to change.
Right.
And so you have to become brave. I heard a funny line a few months ago, and it said that, guy was talking. He said, I worried about 100,000 things. Worried, kept me up at night. He said, only 2 of them came true. And so most of the things that we're afraid of, most of the things that we anticipate is going to happen, don't even ever happen. And yet they paralyze us from doing what we have to do. So the greatest fear, I would say this in leaving, that's one thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say that's more important is the one thing you should really fear and I fear this more than anything in the world. More than anything in the world this is my greatest fear, and I do everything on a daily basis not to allow this fear to come true. Here it is. I don't want to live my life and at the end of it have regrets, because there's no way I can ever alter those regrets. And so if you're meant to do something and you're not doing it right now, you don't have to, by the way. It's amazing. It's such a free world. You don't have to, but you'll live the rest of your life. And then at the end of it, you will have a regret and you'll never be able to go back and change it. So that's what scares me to death.
Yep.
That's what drives me every day to be who I am and to continue to journey inside, become more authentic, self-aware, live who I am.
That's awesome, bro. I'm so glad we connected, man. I am so blessed to have had you be one of the very first guests here on Life Uncloseted. And I love your message. We'll have everything about Greg up on the show page. And if you need some inspiration for your business or other things, go check him out. You won't regret it. You won't regret it at all. So thanks so much, brother, for being here.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
And that's it. That's a wrap. Another episode of Life Uncloseted has come to an end. But don't worry, we'll be back in just a couple of days with another episode with new guests, new tips, new tricks, new wisdom about how you can go live your life uncloseted. And you know what? A lot of people out there may not even know we exist. So if you feel so compelled, share us. Tell people about it. Give us a rating and review on iTunes. Share it from your phone. Wherever you can, spread the word, because the more people that we reach, the better the planet will be when everybody is living their life uncloseted. I'm Rick Clemens, the host of the show, that big, bold move expert, and that guy that constantly wants to help people step out, step up, and step into living their life uncloseted. Have a great couple of days, everyone, and we will be right back with you very, very soon. Take care.